My name is Allan Kilavuka. I'm the Group Managing Director and the CEO of Kenya Airways.
Fantastic. So tell us about what expansion plans Kenya Airways has right now.
Yes, so Kenya Airways today, we fly to 35 African destinations. Then globally, we fly to about 44 other destinations. What we want to do in the next 5 years, we want to double both our fleet and our destinations as well. The idea being to connect Africa, because one of our biggest mandates is to support the Africa growth agenda. And Africa will not grow if it's not connected to each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is our biggest push today. How do we grow the airline? Not only because it's important for us to support the Africa growth agenda, but also because it's important for the sustainability of the airline.
Right, absolutely. So one of the common complaints that people have about travel within Africa is the poor connectivity. Sometimes you have to fly into Europe to come back into Africa again, and the expense, the huge cost. I grew up in London, and going to neighboring countries is relatively inexpensive. You can even go to Spain or France for like £6. It's not the same, sadly, on the continent. So what do you have to say to those people who talk about, the poor connectivity and the expense?
Yes. So what I have to say to them is that, first of all, they're right. The Africa is very poorly connected to each other. From a percentage point of view, we are only 16% connectivity in Africa. If you compare that to Europe, you just mentioned London. Europe has about 72% connectivity. Asia has about 43% connectivity.
Right.
So you can see the big difference.
Yeah.
Why is that the case? Many reasons. But the principal reasons are that, first of all, African aviation is underdeveloped. We call it subscale. It's too small. So in other continents, in Europe, North America, and Asia, they are big. They've grown, and the way they've grown is they've used different things. They've invested in the airlines. So that's one big issue. So you find that we have airlines in Africa, but they are too small to cover the entire continent. And Africa is very big. It's a very big continent. So the second one, you spoke about costs. So we have the infrastructure that supports airline, the aviation, we call it ecosystem. For example, airports, for instance, policy framework, and so on, is underdeveloped.
Right.
So airlines, by necessity, have to supplement the infrastructure to make it happen, so they can continue flying.
Right.
So then that increases their cost. And so, of course, they have to pass the cost to elsewhere.
Yeah.
In fact, if I give you one specific example, generally speaking, if you look at the average cost of fuel within Africa, it's close to about 40% more expensive compared to North America. So you can, because of taxes. Because of taxes.
Many oil-producing countries are on the continent.
Yeah. So you see, in Africa, what has happened is aviation is not seen as central to economic development.
Which is incorrect.
It's incorrect.
Right.
It's incorrect. But African governments and Africa policymakers look at flying and they see it as elitist.
Right.
You have
see
to-
it as not for everybody.
Not for everybody.
Right.
And the mistake they make is they think of it as luxury.
Right.
So then they will tax the luxury because typically, it's an expensive one, so you must afford to pay more taxes. So the low taxes in an industry which is extremely expensive to fund.
Right.
So then, of course, that balloons the cost.
Right.
Now, if you compare to Europe, I'll give you one specific example. You mentioned flying from, let's say, the UK to Madrid. Now, what is called air passenger service charge, flying between those two countries, is approximately $10.
Right.
Approximately. Could even be less, maybe $6. In Africa, if I want to fly from Nairobi to Kampala or Entebbe, that will cost me $110. Only for taxes.
So this is just taxes between the two countries?
Correct. It's called air passenger service charge. So you see, what needs to happen is we need to reduce the taxes so more people can fly,
Right.
so they can collect more taxes. But that's not how the policymakers see it.
Right.
And if you do that, if you fly more, it contributes even more to the economy. You pay more taxes. You enable trade between two countries. You enable not just trade for goods, but also services and free movement of people from one place to another. So all those intricacies. And then one other last one is we don't have free borders, open borders.
Right.
Okay, I know that we're working on it. I know the Agenda 2063 is working on opening up the borders. But until we do so, it's extremely expensive for Africans, and borders are not accessible. Just today, I was being told by someone, he's Angolan, it's very difficult for him to get into West Africa because he requires a visa to Nigeria, he requires a visa to Senegal, Dakar, and all those other places.
I think Dangote famously said that he has to have 35 visas to go to different countries on the continent.
Yeah, there you go.
And whereas the European or US counterpart has none in most cases.
Yeah.
So so let's talk about sustainability. You know, the environment and cares for the environment is one of the things people talk about when it comes to air travel. What is Kenya Airways doing to offset that?
Yeah. So the way we think about sustainability, we look at it from a wholesome perspective. Because I keep telling people, in Africa, our big problem is actually food security.
Right.
If you think about it. So when you think about sustainability, you think about it not just environmental sustainability, but sustainability from a social and economic point of view.
Right.
So yes, we look at environmental sustainability, and we're working on that. There are many initiatives that we've taken, like afforestation. We're planning to plant about 1.2 million trees for the next 5 years. So that's ongoing. We're looking at alternative fuels to reduce carbon emissions. But to us, it's equally, even not more important, to see how do we support sustainability from a social point of view. So for that, we are working hard on how do we enable local communities, for example, when it comes to our supply chain, focus on women and young people supplying into our supply chain. Kenya Airways is the biggest restaurant in Eastern Central Africa.
Okay.
Because we have about 12,000 meals a day.
Wow.
So how do we make sure that young people are incorporated in that supply chain so that they can benefit and we can enable communities to grow? And then how do we train our people also? We have very highly trained people, so but how we train them to make sure that they can serve us better and support the society around them.
Okay.
So those are the interventions that we're making.